Okay, this is going to be part 3 of reading Rabbi Shmuel Horowitz's life in the sefer Yemey Shmuel. We finished off the last video talking about Rav Shmuel Heller, who was the grandfather or great-grandfather, I think he was the grandfather of Rav Shmuel Horowitz himself. And he's telling over stories that he heard from his father about he's telling over stories about Rav Shmuel Heller that he heard from his father. So we're going to continue. So it says that Rav Shmuel Heller, he had a lot of misnagdim that caused him a lot of troubles. He had a lot of people that were against him, but he always showed good to them. He didn't he was just nice to them, whatever. He had one person specifically. His name was Mordechai, Mordechai, whatever. And at certain times he would just like jump on him and and hurt him and scream at him and curse him out and make him embarrassed, whatever. And every time this guy came and started screaming at Rav Shmuel Heller would just like, it's okay, I still love you, don't worry about it, like all these things, whatever. Like, why are you being so angry at me and all these different things. And my father told me more things about Rav Shmuel Heller. He says over here that at the time that the Sar Harav Moshe Montefiore, who was a guy, I don't really know exactly who he was. I know he was a very historical figure in Israel. There's a street in Tzfat, and there's many streets in Israel named after Montefiore. I should probably look that up, right? Like who he was, but he used to come to Tzfat a lot. I see from this book. Anyway, it says over here that he was in Tzfat, and he visited in the house of Rav Shmuel Heller. And and the walls where Rav Shmuel sat, they were all black from the smoke of the candles. And Mistama, the story happened before Pesach, where they didn't, repaint the houses or whatever they used to do back then. And the Sar, Rav Moshe Montefiore, asked, like, in his Tfimus, he was a simple guy, whatever, he didn't know all these things. He asked, like, oh, well, what's the color that you painted your walls? He never saw this type of color. And when Rav Shmuel said that this is not paint, this is just the smoke from the candles from when I learn at night, he said, I'm jealous of this color paint that you have that I do not have. He said, I have, great palaces and all these different things, but this important color I do not have. And then Rav Shmuel Horowitz continues about Rav Shmuel Heller. He says, I also heard from other relatives, Harava chassid Rabbi Shmuel, a different Rav Shmuel, who was a grandson of also our grandfather. I guess he was one of Rav Shmuel Horowitz's cousins. Everyone's named Shmuel, so it gets a little confusing. That his father told him that Rav Shmuel Heller, in the last year before he passed away, he was very, very weak. And he said, Erev Lag Baimer, he's not going to go to Meron, because it was very hard for him to travel on the donkeys that they did back then. That's how they traveled to Meron. And on Lag Baimer, Rav Shmuel came to Meron. And they said, what do you mean? You said you weren't going to come. What's going on? And he said, they called him in a dream to come. So he came. So that's another cool story. And then there was another story that he healed a child. That he healed the only child of one of the heads of the non-Jews, like a very important guy over there, that a Jew had beat up, because this kid, I guess, and some of his friends or whatever were throwing stones at these Jews when they were going to Meron, and then I guess they beat him up or whatever. So then he almost died, and of course back then it was a little bit different. So the non-Jews were gearing up to kill all the Jews, Rahman al-Islam, if this kid would die. And Rav Shmuel Heller was with this kid day and night until he got better. He davened a lot and everything like that, and he made the tzibor daven and everything like that, and he was healed shaloy al piteva. Like, it wasn't like there was no way that really he could be healed, but he was still healed. and they had a great day and a great simcha. And it says here that I also heard from the Ziknei Tzfat, from the elders of Tzfat, that one time that a non-Jew was messing around with a Jewish girl, and Rav Shmuel Heller was told about this. He was very sad about it. Whatever the story is, that he eventually took care of this. That they so he called them, I guess, like he called the heads of the non-Jews, and like whatever, he wasn't able to be quiet about it, and like they said that we're gonna take care of it. Like the non-Jews will take care of this non-Jew who's messing with this girl, and and then there was never anything like that before. Again, after that, Bichlal, what they're trying to say from these stories is that he was very, very chassid by even the non-Jews, because he would always, we spoke about how he used to do healings for them, and he used to help them, and he used to go to their cities and heal them, and then he would sleep by them for a few days until he would heal everybody, and he didn't want to take any money at all. The only thing he wanted was that they should always be good to all the Jews. And if they ever see a Jew, back then they were traveling more far or something like that. If they ever see a Jew lost, they should help him. And so it was that the non-Jews at Tzfat were not Sonei Yisrael. They did not hate Jews like the other non-Jews in other places. Until recently, it says over here in the sefer, until a new generation come who didn't know from Rav Shmuel Heller and all those guys. Sorry about that. V'chein Hoya, they called him Chacham Shmuel. And they also gave great, honor to his grandsons and his children, because they were able to. They said that they were able to tell by their faces that they were, grandchildren of Chacham Shmuel. At one time in Tzfat there was a great famine because there was no rain. In the times of Rabbi Shmuel, and the Arabs came with sacks of flour. V'hushvu imam al-machir. I guess these Arabs dropped it off without even telling that they were doing that. They liked Rav Shmuel Heller so much. Okay. Anyway, then it says over here that one time he was learning Kisvei Arizal, which is a lot of heavy Kabbalah, and he was having a hard time understanding one Inyan, and he davened that the Ari should come to him. Chen Haya Sha'arizal himself came and learned with Rav Shmuel Heller. But afterwards he regretted doing this, that he made the Arizal come down from Shemayim or whatever it was, and he decided that and he took it upon himself that he's going to go every single Friday to the Tzion of the Ariyah Kodesh, which is here buried in Tzfas, everybody knows, and he's going to say all the Tehillim. And there's a famous story in Breslover that Rav Nassan, who everybody knows, Rav Nassan, who was the student of Rabbi Nachman, when he came to Eretz Yisrael, he came and he stayed by Rav Shmuel Heller, and Rav Shmuel Heller told Rav Nassan all about this. He says sometimes it's very hard for me to say the whole Tehillim. It's Erev Shabbos and everything like that, and Rav Nassan told him about the Tikkun Klali, about that the Tikkun Klali is Kol everything and everything like that. So it says over here that when he got older and he didn't have all the time, or he didn't have Koyach to say the whole entire Tehillim, he would just say the Tikkun Klali. And he also said them in other holy places. And he used to say tefillos from Sefer Likutei Tefillos. And it says over here that he had all Sifrei Rabbi Nachman, all Sifrei Rabbeinu. And in parentheses it says over here that Rav Shmuel Horowitz writes, because he's writing the sefer, he says, and I myself have a Sefer Likutei Halachos Yoredea with his signature. That means that he had Rav Shmuel Heller's Likutei Halachos Yoredea with his signature. and he had a lot of notes in there and everything like that. And also the Rav of Turin, the Turiner Rav, when he was in Eretz Yisrael, he also stayed by Rav Shmuel Heller, and also the sister of Rabbi Nachman, whose name was Peril. Peril lived by Rav Shmuel Heller without paying anything. And I think Rav Nassan met her when he came to Eretz Yisrael, when he came to Tzfas. And it says over here, according to the sefer Eidin Tzion, Daf Kuf Yotes, line 4, it says that Rav Shmuel Heller was Tzaddik Chesed. He was 98 years old when he died, which is the gematria of L'chaim. It says over here that he started being the Rav of Tzfas in the year Tav Kuf Pei Daled, at the year when he was 38 years old. And Ushnatayim Koidem, before that, 2 years before that, that was when Rav Nassan came to Tzfas. And it says over here, it continues on about Rav Shmuel Heller, that Rav Shmuel Heller had a son. His name was Rabbi Avram, Zechron Lavracha. He was also a very, very holy Yid. He was very, very big as well. And also Rav Shmuel Heller had 2 daughters, Acha Shema Sarah, who was one of them was named Sarah, who was the wife of the brother of my grandfather, Rabbi Asher Yecheskel, Knesset El, Va'acha Shema Devoira, and one of them is named Devoira, and he is and she is my grandmother, the mother of my mother. So that is how Rav Shmuel Horowitz comes from Rav Shmuel Heller. That Rav Shmuel Heller's daughter Devorah, daughter was Rav Shmuel Horowitz's mother, and he made a shidduch with her im Zikini Rabbi Yitzchak. What? The whole family is like all together. It was Rabbi Yitzchak Leverbaum. This whole family tree is crazy, but whatever. It's mad. It's very, very holy. It sounds like he had like more than 4 grandfathers, but I guess it doesn't always mean grandfathers. Okay. Anyway, Kitzer v'yadua ha'maisa, and it's also known as the story before my grandfather, before my skeni, Rabbi Yitzchak Leverbaum, passed away, he called to his son-in-law, who was my father, that he should bring him a sefer Rambam, because he wanted to look in it. And he looked inside and he said, Toiv v'nachon v'sipur la'avi, and they were like, what's going on, So he told my father that the Rambam came to him before he passed away, and he said to him, because you learned your whole entire life my sefer, I am going to come now. I came to you now to answer all your kashas. And Rabbi Yitzchak asked the Rambam, is it a certain kasha that he always had a hard time with for a long time, and he couldn't find any answer, and the Rambam gave him an answer. And then he said to bring a sefer, look at it, and he saw that this was the teretz of the Rambam that he gave him, and it was very good for him. Yeah, that's pretty crazy stuff. And his wife told us that before he died, one night after Chatzos, he woke up from sleeping with, he was screaming and everything like that. And when she asked him this, he said that he dreamed that he had a dream, and in the dream they invited him to the Suda of the Rambam, and therefore he was screaming. He was like getting ready. I got to go to the Suda, V'hadavar nifla, and it's a davar nifla. Why? Because he was nifter on the Yom Tes L'Chodesh Teves, on the 9th day of Teves, 11 days before the Hilula Rabbah Shel Rabbeinu HaRambam on Chav Teves. He died 11 days before, and that's when he had the dream that the Rambam was inviting him to the Suda, which is like a remez that he was, he's going to pass away and join the Rambam up there. And all this I copied from what my father wrote. Rabbi Shmuel Horowitz wrote about Rav Shmuel Heller Zecher Tzaddik Levracha. Fine. So that is that. What's this? Let's do a few more minutes. Why not? We should make these videos longer. So my grandfather now, Rabbi Yitzchak Lerabam, had two sons, and one of them is my father. No, one of them is my uncle, Rabbi Avner. Okay. Gam came Adam Gadol, Vayvad Hashem Minahurav. He was also a very, very big tzaddik. And my uncle Rabbi Avner, after he got married, he would go. His minhag was to go on Motzei Shabbos to the Arishol, the one down by the cemetery. If you've ever been in Tzfat before, there's like 3 shul that they call the Arishol. The one down by the cemetery is called the Ari Svardi. The one closer in the middle of the old city is called the Ari Ashkenazi. Another one called the Ari Beis Medrash, whatever. We're not going to get into that now. Anyway, he says over here that his uncle would go. He would go to the Arishol on Motzei Shabbos, and he would sit there the whole entire week until the next Shabbos, and then he would come home. And this is what he did for many, many years. From Shabbos to Shabbos, he was always going to avoid Hashem in the in the Ari Svardi shul. And my mother and her sister would bring him food. And they would say to him, "Aren't you scared to be here alone?" and everything like that. I said, "No, there's nothing to be scared of." And he says over here that there's much to tell what happened over there. There was many times where he was davening Shmon Esrei, and a gigantic snake would wrap himself around his legs. And he didn't move until he finished his tefillah. And afterwards, he took the snake in his hands, and he threw it away. And the Shamish Hazakin, the old person who took care of the shul, who was an old Sephardi guy who took care of the Ari Sephardi, told us that there was there a neighbor who was a non-Jew, who was a Sonei Yisrael, and he was not happy that Rabbi Avner was learning there the whole entire week. And he came to kill him. And when this non-Jew came into the shul, and he saw how Rabbi Avner was learning, he would like scream, and he was really intense. A great pachad gadol fell upon this non-Jew, and he ran away from there. And he got sick and he died. Kein yoivdu kol oivecha Hashem. Pam echad. One time he came to his house on Friday night. He came completely covered in blood. And the story is like this: So Rabbi Avner Yashav Lamad al Bima Gedola Sheisham Be'emtza Beis Knesset Ari. Right. So the truth is, in all 3 Arizal shuls, whatever, in Tzfat, the main 2 obviously is they have very, very big bimas, like really tall, like 10, 11, like some of them are like 8 feet off the ground, 9 feet off the ground, like 6, 7 steps, 8 steps going up there. So he was learning on the bima. That's where they would go up to the Torah in the times of the Ari. And the Ari came to him, came to him. And he got so scared and he was so suddenly taken back that he jumped. Kafat kol hamadragosh, he jumped all the stairs. V'nafal v'nifza, he fell down and he got hurt. And when he came to the house, he didn't want to say anything. He was so scared. He was so shooken up, whatever. And his mother, I guess it was there, B'gzeres kivad avayim, that he cannot go there by himself anymore. And from then on, he stopped. He was mekayim her gezerah. He was mekayim her decree. And after that, he always had a cheder miyuchad in his house, or whatever it was, that to serve Hashem. And I heard from our grandfather, Rav Shmuel Heller, that he loved Rabbi Avner very much. And at the time that his mother was still pregnant with him, she said that he said that she is pregnant with a great neshama gedola, a zaydin neshama, nishmas Avner ben Ner, from the soul of Avner ben Ner. Hashem Avner, and she also gave him they gave him the shame of Avner. And my father told me, and that his tefillah, Rabbi Avner's tefillah, when he was younger, was with such a slavas and the shirus nefesh, until he got sick in his stomach, mamish. And his father would go to the Beis Medrash after he would go to a different shul to daven. Rabbi Avner's father would go to a different shul to daven because he couldn't take the mysterious nefesh that his kid was doing, like to daven like this or whatever. The main thing is haklal. That's how you always finish off haklal. The Rabbi Avner was one of the main mitziyonim bador. He's one of the greats in the generation. He was a great chiddush in avodas Hashem. And his last years, he lived in Meron until the yishuv there stopped, and he moved to Yerushalayim. And then he moved to the old city of Yerushalayim. V'sham nechla v'niftar yom chavchas iyar. Sham nechla v'niftar chavchas iyar. Whoa, that was like a day ago. Yom P'tur Shmuel Navi. Shnas Tav Shin Aleph. Wow. Okay. Next chapter is going to talk about Rav Shmuel Horowitz's mother, who was named Fega, who's also Rabbi Nachman's mother. All right, that is the video for this week, guys. I'll see you soon.